Hey guys, CrimsGreyVR, and in this discussion, I'll be talking about some thoughts and things that I've been thinking about recently, and I hope that you guys will find useful. So, let's get into it. Now, to begin, I have to give some context, and the context involves a little lore drop on me specifically, and that is I work as a cart pusher at a Walmart, and one day I was working, I was getting my job done, and on that specific day that I was working, I remember being so unnecessarily upset. I remember being upset about almost everything I was seeing while I was working, like at other people and like what they were doing, and myself for not doing certain things in the past, and a whole lot of other stuff that I've been dealing with consistently, mostly because for if you've ever worked as a cart pusher at like any store, you know that there's going to be a lot of time where you're going to be alone. You're going to be with your thoughts by yourself, and you're going to have to figure out a way to entertain yourself so you don't go crazy. Because I've noticed when I spiral, I'll be honest with you. But that is the context that I need to give at the beginning. So let's get into it. The first thought that I had during all this that really struck me strangely, even though it sounds so obvious and like, man, I really should know this already and like understand it fully. And that is to just stop worrying about things that you can't control. You can't control other people. You can't control the circumstances that you're put in, because let's be honest, no one has control over the circumstances they're put in to the most part. Now, I know there's some things you can do to influence your ability to be in certain situations that would be more favorable for your mental state and all that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, there's just this certain point of realization in life after a while of like growing up, and that is you need to just accept the fact you're not in control and you will never be in control, and just accepting that will kind of strangely enough give you a lot of freedom. I've noticed, like, for me, when I was working, I started to feel a little more calm, and I started to like calm down more, because I remember being really angry at like everything and be like, why is this happening? Why are they doing this? Why is this person doing this that way? Why are they doing this? Rather than just taking in the moment, doing what I can, and not worrying about things that I can't control, because it's literally in the sentence. It's not worth the energy trying to control something you can't control. That's pretty much all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying at this point. And another thing that you need to realize when it comes to realizing you shouldn't worry about things you can't control, and that is your past. Now, when it comes to like your past, no matter how is that the word? Turmoil. No matter how like messy it was, no matter like the choices you made, you can never go back and change them. The only thing you can do is be like, hey, so back in my life, I made this decision and I regret it. So now, from that moment, I know what not to do and what to improve on to avoid certain things like that and that sort of thing. And yeah, there's not really much to explain other than like realizing you don't have control. Now moving on from the thought of realizing you don't have control over things that you just frankly never will have control over, it leads to my second thing that I was wanting to mention. And that is, while I was working, I also noticed I was being extremely angry, not just with my past and at what other people were doing in the current time. Also, I was just beating myself up like crazy over my past, as I mentioned before, over like everything I was doing. I was like, why am I doing it this way? Why are you so stupid? You should just do it this way. Or like, why do you even keep going? You should just quit now and stop, and like that sort of thing, which it feels so stupid saying it out loud, because it's not true, because like no matter what you're going through, no matter how painful it is, no matter how emotionally turmoilic it is that even a word? It probably isn't a word, but we're going with it. No matter how destructive it is to you mentally or physically, the only thing that matters is you just keep pushing through. You just keep going. Because that's basically what life is at the end of the day. It is realizing your strengths and all that other stuff and employing them, going with things that you love, going with hobbies you love, and following passions that you love. Now, there are some passions that I believe aren't exactly the best, but something that I've heard and I've realized is something that has really helps me to keep going is it's all good if it keeps you from deleting yourself from God's Minecraft server. That's the best way I can put it. Now, you got to be careful with that, I realize, because you could use that technically to justify anything. Of like, well, oh, this makes me feel good, so therefore it is justified if it prevents me from retiring permanently and that sort of thing. And while I was working through this feeling of anger towards myself for a lot of things. I can't really say specifically, to be honest, because there's just so much. And at the end of the day, it comes down to realizing your internal voice and like realizing that it's there and questioning it in a way like you would to a friend. Be like, why do you think this? Or like that sort of thing. And trying to explain like why am I so upset with myself and that sort of thing, which that started to calm me down slightly more than previous, because I was not in the right headspace. And it all comes down to realizing you're stuck with yourself. No matter what happens, no matter if your friends die or they separate from you, you're going to be stuck with yourself for the rest of your life. And if you're just going to like not do anything and not talk to yourself, not talk to your inner voice, that's like super negative and like beats you up as much as possible, because it comes down to like the past experiences of making your internal voice think that's like, oh yeah, why are you keep going? You shouldn't, and all that other stuff. Essentially, what I'm saying is that realizing you're stuck with yourself and then working with your internal voice and talking to and negotiating with yourself, that is something that you need to realize, is that you need to negotiate with yourself. That is something that I've been working on and doing, especially since I've had to be more of an adult and have a consistent job so I can pay rent and all that other adult stuff that I wish I didn't have to deal with. It all comes down to that, because when you get to that level, you start realizing your time is valuable and you need to know your value and you need to act like it. That's what it comes down to all the way. It'd be like, hype yourself up and be like, yo, I'm awesome. Let's do this. Let's get it. Let's get it, boy. Yeah. It sounds weird out loud, but that's what I'm saying. And with that, that leads me to my next point that I want to talk about, and that is you need to stop letting your past have power over you and stop reminiscing in the past. Now, it's okay if you like think back in the past and be like, oh, think of it as like a learning experience, like as you were in school and that sort of stuff. That's the only good way to think of it. There is literally no other way, because there's literally so much to learn from your past and nothing really to lose other than, well, other than some possible like trauma you may have from your past. That obviously is a thing with a lot of people. I'm not disregarding that at all. But yeah, at the end of the day, try to avoid viewing your past as like a failure. That's all it comes down to. Stop viewing it as a failure. View it as a learning experience rather than be like, oh, why didn't I do this way? And that sort of thing. Now, with that thought of reflecting on your past and viewing it more in a learning manner, and that leads me to my next point. And that is something that I haven't actually really thought of much, just because I've been like, go, 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 get this done next, do this next, do this, treating life as like a whole mass to-do list that literally never ends. And where I'm going with this is that you need to stop trying to rush through life. Now, I understand that there's deadlines and that sort of thing, but when it comes to this, and with what I mean by this is that when it comes to not rushing through things, for example, this last weekend of when I recorded this video, which it'll be a while, I went rafting with my family, and it was fun. I enjoyed it all. I enjoyed every moment, even though we almost died like twice. That in itself probably could be a video, but I'm getting off topic. What I'm trying to say here is, with that trip specifically, I decided not to bring anything to try to capture the moment and like save it and like grasp at it and be like, oh, I must save this moment like I'm gonna die or something, which we all will, but that's besides the point. What I'm saying is that with this experience that I had of going rafting with my family and my cousins and having so much fun, is that I realized the best moments that you will have are moments that you not only don't rush through because you're thinking, oh, I have to do this after I get back home and all that other stuff. Rather, it's being fully present, taking in everything, using all your senses, your smell, not necessarily taste, that's probably not recommended for certain things, but your eyes, taking in the colors, the beautiful river that we went rafting on, and all the different animals you might see. Pretty much taking everything in, taking in the feeling, the wind, how the water feels. Oh, it's just such a good experience to like be like, okay, I'm just gonna go just to go and not take any photos, because I just want to have the full experience of being with family. Because another point I want to make with this is that you won't always have your family with you. Like, at the end of the day, everyone's gonna eventually die, and especially with your parents, they're obviously gonna be older and significantly older than you. That's all I'm saying. And you just have to take in every moment you can get, because you don't know when you can't. This also applies with friends, because with my experience of life so far, I've had a lot of friends. I've lost a lot of friends, but most significantly, back in the totally exciting and totally happy year of 2020, I had this friend that I had been hanging out with and like talking and like giving personal, like giving personal like respect and like giving myself in a way. Not like in the sense of getting, intimate, but the the sense of friendship. And even though we had disagreed in a lot of things, we were still friends at the end of the day. And there was a whole bunch of drama and that sort of stuff. I don't really want to get into it because that's a whole another story in itself. To me, that was like one of the best friendships I've had, like, ever. And ooh, when things went rough, when things went really bad, man, I was destroyed for a while. And I will admit, I was reminiscing on the past, like the good times that we had together, and like, oh, I wish I had that back and all that fun stuff. And that's what I'm saying. Essentially, at the end of the day in life, you need to take everything in and enjoy every second you can, because it'll eventually disappear. But yeah, that's pretty much it with this. Take everything in, take your time, take as much time as you need, because at the end of the day, it'll be gone eventually. That leads me into my next thing that I was wanting to talk about, and that is you need to start having more compassion and love in a way towards yourself and others, but mostly yourself. And what I mean by this is that, at least with my thought process on this, is that when it comes to yourself, you have you, obviously, and you have your body, and you're supposed to take care of your body, make sure you're all nice and like clean, make sure you're all nice and ready for like when you go to work, make sure you're like feeding yourself, working out, etc. All that fun stuff. And you need to start working on your mental health too, as well as your soul, which I at least in my opinion, there's like a whole like thing with that. But yes, you need to start having more compassion and self-care, because if you don't, even if you're taking care of your physical body, your mental health, no matter what happens, even if you somehow have like a really good like startup in life as a child, there will be things that are traumatizing to you and that will negatively affect you mentally. No matter who you are, it will happen. It's just the unfortunate thing about life. And with where I'm going with this and my thought process on this is that you need to work on yourself, make sure that you're taking care of yourself to the optimal amount and all that other fun things, and just loving yourself, not in like overly like super weird like, oh, I love myself, like, I don't know, some hippie thing. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. But what I'm trying to say here is, with regards to loving yourself, if you're able to love yourself and take care of yourself, you'll be more inclined to love others and help and to work with others to achieve things that you would not be able to do if you were just internally in turmoil and all over the place and hating yourself. You would just not be able to do that. You would just be like, well, if I hate myself, I should hate other people. And it's an interesting thing. And when I mean with love, you can like love people in a way that's like in like a friendship way, and there's like some other things with it, like obviously, for example, there's a lot of like tough love that parents have to do with their kids. But yeah, don't need to go into that right now. At the end of the day, loving yourself, taking care of yourself equals loving others and eventually taking care of others to a healthy manner, at least. And the final thing I want to talk about is you need to start talking to yourself as a friend, and specifically as a concerned friend. Now, what I mean by this is, by going back to my previous point, way back, Specifically, the point that I was saying, you need to realize that you're going to be stuck with yourself for your entire life, and you're going to need to learn how to live with yourself and grow and all the other stuff. That's what I'm saying. And through that, you need to start talking to yourself as a concerned friend. And what I mean by concerned friend, for example, is in my situation, I've created like my persona, CrimsGrey. I usually think of him a lot. Not like, I mean, that sounds kind of sus. Not gonna lie, I won't deny that. That's kind of sus. But hear me out. When I'm working and when I start to spiral and have anger and annoying thoughts that I don't really want to have, which honestly, when it comes to anger, I kind of like having anger while I work, while pushing carts, because it makes time go by faster. But anyways, we don't need to get into that. The reason that I bring up my persona, who's CrimsGrey, is because I've used him as like a mental friend to talk to while I'm working, because 90% of the time I'm alone. And whenever I'm like angry and like all that other stuff, and I just feel like overwhelmed and I feel like, all these other different emotions, I start talking to myself like, hey dude, I know it's rough right now, but I'm here for you. It gives you, essentially what I'm saying is like, it gives me, at least in my situation, it gave me something to like talk to and talk with in a way. That sounds really weird now that I think of it, but if I remember correctly, the studies say that people who talk to themselves while they work or other things like that are more emotionally intelligent. I'm not sure exactly if that's true or not, but that's what I've heard with like studies and all that fancy schmancy like sciencey stuff. But yeah, it's very healthy to do. You're not crazy for talking to yourself. Like, I've talked to myself out loud, and I've even like joked around with myself out loud, which honestly, joking around with myself out loud is something I was like, you should not say that out loud. I feel like I'm gonna get fired if I say that joke. And that sort of thing. Yeah. But at the end of the day, if you start talking to yourself as a friend, you'll be able to calm yourself down and be like, oh, I can actually talk to myself and negotiate with myself and just be my own best friend. That's like the main thing that I want to say, is that you need to become your own best friend, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be stuck with yourself. So you might as well befriend yourself rather than being like, I'm super angsty and angry at myself 24/7, because that's not healthy. Yeah, that's not healthy. Last I checked. But I kind of want to start putting content out there, especially with my discussion videos that are more emotion based and will provide some kind of emotional benefit. I love doing entertainment videos and all that other fun thing, but there's a point where it's like, I want to do something that means more to people other than just pure entertainment. Now guys, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to tickle the algorithm by dropping a comment down below explaining your thoughts on this subject, as well as any like self-explored things that you guys have gone into, or any other things like that. But other than that, CrimsGreyVR out. All